I wish you all interesting, effective, and enjoyable day. Formality is now done and dusted. We have a heavy schedule, so I would like to apologize in advance for interrupting or interfering during presentation when necessary. I would like to invite Professor Ron Kenneth to present the first lecture on measurement standards, information, and insights. Professor Kenneth is the chairman and CEO of the KPA Group. He is an international professor associate in the Center for Risk Engineering in NYU and a research professor in the University of Torontto. Ron is also past president of the Israel Society Statistical Association and NBIS. He authored and edited 10 books and over 160 papers on topics of industrial statistics, surveys, biostatistics, quality and risk management. Ron was awarded last Greenfield Industrial Medal by the Royal Statistical Society, a medal awarded every 3 years, recognizing excellence in the applications of statistics.
Thank you for the introduction, Diamanta. Thank you, Yuval, for organizing this. How much time do I have? 20 minutes. A little less. Okay. So out of my 20 minutes, I'd like to take 1 minute and advertise a very important conference we're going to have on May 1st. The picture here is really bad because the real scenery is beautiful. It's the Galilee, and it's on May 1st at the Old Broad College. It's a conference which is focused on research in quality. And if someone is interested in the translation of this, I'll be glad to do that. Okay, this talk is really it has 3 pieces. Okay, I'm going to try and put them together. And they are coming from various activities. So this is really the first time I've done that. The motivation is that I'm not a person who works in metrology, but people who work in metrology, people who develop analytic methods, if they have the wide view, are interested in impact. In other words, in having whatever they do generate insights, produce some kind of solution to people who have to manufacture, develop, improve processes and products. So this is an assumption. We basically want to use data in modern quality assurance to achieve insights. The 3 parts deal with the conceptual aspects embedded in VIM 3. VIM? Anyone? Not many. Not many. I will briefly talk about a life cycle view of statistics. And the 3rd part has to do with something I've been involved with quite extensively in the last 2 years with Galit Shmueli, called InfoQ. And we actually we started writing a book on this. So measurement concepts. VIM is in French, Vocabulaire International de Métrologie. That's VIM. I'm sure you knew that. In the second version of VIM, where the terms are being presented, the document was called International Vocabulary of Basic, I can look it up here, and General Terms. Then it took many years. You see the update was in 2008. And I noticed a change in how the document is called. Now it's called Basic and General Concepts. Okay, so we are entering something called concepts and associated terms. We published a paper in AQUAL, Accreditation Quality Assurance, in 2010, already 4 years ago, called Conceptual Thinking and Metrology Concepts, because of this change in the title of the document. If you go into this document, you see an attempt to explain, define, describe uncertainty. We're talking about random and systematic errors. We are talking about type A evaluation and type B evaluation. I won't even go into the details of that. And what we are doing is applying something called concept science to this document called VIM3, which talks about concepts. So now we are using a methodology developed in another field to understand this document that is a very fundamental document in metrology. Concept science identifies, now we're talking about some jargon, so try to ignore the jargon. Co-occurring subordinate concepts, that's the terminology. And here are some examples: the quantity values, the measurand, the corrections, measurement standards, etc., are co-occurring subordinate concepts of uncertainty. These have relations, and through something called concept parsing algorithm, you can map the concept domain. This is actually done in concept diagrams in VIM3. You have some graphical description of what is linked to what. And we are basically re-evaluating this document from the point of view of concept science, and that's what the paper is about. What Paul de Bièvre has, I think, correctly identified is that if you want a document to be available globally, so that your Chinese partner, your Czech partner, and your South American partner communicate using the same terms which have the same concept behind them, you need something more than just a technical document. And Paul wrote, in order to operationalize a globally accepted set of metrology terms, one requires to deal with a higher level of abstraction when conceiving a vocabulary for worldwide use. He worked very hard to get VIM3 approved. Took many years to get people to agree on that. You concur. Okay. So if we want to get this level of understanding, we have to raise the level of abstraction, and this is something that has been done in this paper. If we talk about metrology, one very nice document, I have a copy, a 1951 document. I was 1 year old when they published it. It's called On Quality Control in Materials. It's the E11 ASTM committee. And ASTM has a series of documents. One of them, which is very interesting for people who are interested in industrial statistics, it's called Estimating and Monitoring the Uncertainty of Test Results of a Test Method Using Control Chart Techniques. So here is a fantastic application of control charts to monitoring uncertainty. And there is, of course, another very fundamental document that is used in metrology called GAM. GAM. Let's see some hands. There are more GAMs. There are more GAMs than VIMs. About twice as many. So GAMs is the guide to the expression of uncertainty in measurement. Briefly, I have now 15 minutes, 18 minutes, 12 minutes. ASTM is taking a top-down view. We are dealing with measurements. Both GAM and ASTM documents are dealing with uncertainty from different perspectives. So ASTM is taking a top-down view. GAM is taking a bottom-up view. as a statistician, I am usually taking the top-down view, which begins with measurements. The basic gauge R&R that everybody here is familiar with is related to running a black box experiment and understanding what is the typical variation to be anticipated due to the measurement process, to the measurement system, and distinguishes between short-term variation and typical laboratories outcomes that create another level of, of variation. These books have 2 or 3 pages dedicated to that. A system that we developed called SPC Live, which is a web-based cloud-hosted system, will also allow you to do gauge R&R. Basically, it's something that is supposed to be done repeatedly. It's not a one-shot deal. It's supposed to be redone periodically. So it's not like validation of an analytic method, which is done once for the whole life cycle of the approach. GAM is a bottom-up approach. You are basically formulating how the uncertainty is combined, and you get into different models. You can now use also Bayesian approaches to that. And if you have the way the calculation is done, you basically expand it and get an assessment of uncertainty in a bottom-up fashion. So these were a few contributions to metrology in a sense, concept science, the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, very important because that's where the numbers are coming from. And as statisticians, we deal with numbers, so we should also be concerned with how these numbers are produced. However, what I've been writing on in the last few years is that this is not enough. And we need to expand our view and have what I call a life cycle view. And this is drawn from a paper with Paul Thurgood called Aspects of Statistical Consulting Not Taught by Academia. What you find in most academic courses which teach statistics is a focus on the middle stage, the data analysis stage. Here's the data, please run an analysis of variance. The picture has some more, if you move the camera to the right, in terms of understanding what the report means, what the gauge R&R report means, what are the implications, and the ability to communicate these so that something happens. And if you move the camera to the left, you're going into how was the data collected and how was the actual problem elicited, sometimes implicitly, sometimes explicitly. Briefly, the best example I can provide to problem elicitation, which is the beginning of this life cycle. This life cycle is actually very much similar to the DMAIC approach in the Six Sigma, Lean Sigma environment. So we're talking about this, but maybe in more general terms, so that it does not sound like a recipe, but a general intellectual approach, scientific approach, engineering approach, and is not just here is one DMAIC or 5 DMAICs. We're talking about something that involves thinking and elaboration. So under this life cycle approach, problem elicitation is a first step. This is from Tony Greenfield in a book by David Hand. If you go to the dentist and you come with a pain, the dentists have been trained to identify what is causing the pain. They go 1, 2, 3, 4. They have a method. They are trained to implement this method. If you go to if you look at the statistical literature, on problem elicitation, there is not much that has been written. So if we want to have a life cycle view of statistics, we should have methodologies, we should have methods, we should have training in how to do problem elicitation. And there's not much of that. Seven minutes. Very good, yes. Okay, so these were flashes. Okay, you have the presentation, and I'm leaving it. I don't know, it's going to be available, the presentation? Okay. Presentation is a lot of references, so you can even go further. So this is the last part in my trilogy, the topic of information quality. Okay. You're dealing with some domain space. You're working for a pharmaceutical company. You have to detect impurities. You develop analytic methods with an HPLC system. And eventually, you want to help the production to have something that works so that they know if they can release the batch or not. What you are doing is actually moving from the domain space to the analytic space, because the analytic method that you developed is going to produce numbers which are now in the analytic space that can be analyzed. One thing that deserves attention is a goals elicitation. We're going to use this method for the purpose of testing the product and making sure that we are not releasing products that don't meet the specifications. There are two related topics called data quality and analysis quality. That's something that deserves attention by itself. We want to talk about information quality, which in a way that is much more, much stronger than data quality and analysis quality, cannot be evaluated without a clear understanding of the goals. You cannot evaluate the quality of the information that you got if the goals are not clear. And this is the way knowledge is generated. So what we have done in this paper in the Journal of the Royal Statistical Society that appears this month, this issue, the coming issue, is deconstruct this idea of information quality. And I'm going to cover briefly in 5 minutes the how and the what. The how and the what. It took 2009, so I can say 5 years to publish this paper. We had completely split reviews. Some people said this is the best thing that has ever happened. Some people said it is trivial, nothing new. So how do you reconcile these reviews? It's not trivial. But eventually, we have 8 discussants to this paper. So if you want to publish in statistical journals, you must have some mathematics. This is the mathematics that we've included. The definition of InfoQ, the information quality, is a utility measure of an analysis method applied to a given data set conditioned on specific goals. And this involves 4 components and the relationship between them. And in the paper, we are providing some examples of how this how this looks like. Analysis goal, one basic distinction is, do you want to explain what is going on, or do you want to create predictions for future use of the model? Where is the CMMI 5 guy? I don't see him. Sagi, where is he? Okay, Inota, okay. In CMMI level 5, some models are for predicting because you want to use them for planning. Some are for explaining because you want to improve what is going on. So these are different goals, different models. 2 minutes? Wow. Okay. So I will skip this. I will end up. We have deconstructed this thing that I was going to present into 8 dimensions. Data resolution, data structure, data integration, etc. it turns out that if you go to the big data analytics literature, they are actually covering the first 5. So what we are doing is coherent with what is done in big data analytics. I won't have time to go over this. Maybe this is a final example. Well, if I have 1 minute, I won't be able to do that. Okay. So finally, this is the last slide. We want to go from numbers to knowledge. Okay, this is something that you have seen many times. The point is, how do you do that? Do you have tools? Do you have techniques? Do you have ways to help you on this path? Okay, the idea is not new. The question is, what do you do about it? So what I tried in this glimpse of topics that I gave you is to show first how to address measurement concepts in a more abstract way with concept science, then how to expand the role of statistics to have a life cycle view as opposed to just the analytic part, and 3, how to assess what it is that you're actually providing to the decision maker using this approach we call InfoQ. So hopefully this got you interested to look at these papers. And if anyone has questions now or in the break or later, I'm happy. Okay, okay. Okay, we are rich. We have 2 questions. We can afford 2 questions. Yes, please. Yeah.
Morris Cox, UK. Just a point
Yes.
of information. There's a new version of the BIM.
Okay.
It's an edited version.
Okay.
2008. It appeared last year, 2012. There's not very much change, but there is some change made.
Okay, thanks. I met you in Cachan, I don't remember when it was, in one of the conferences. That's how I met Paul, actually. I wasn't aware of this, but yeah, we'll look at it. Thanks.
But a further question.
Yeah.
Do you know whether the BIM committee took account of your paper?
Paul was also in Israel for a conference 2 years ago, I think. We had a long discussion. I don't know if in this edited version that I haven't seen something did, but he also encouraged us to publish this in Aqual, so he's behind that in a sense. The other part that goes with this concept science topic is how to evaluate so-called deep understanding. We can prepare a test to have people evaluate their level of understanding of these concepts. And just to mention the jargon, it's called MERLO, meaning equivalence reusable learning object. You know, all these acronyms always, they mean something to someone, but there is a way, if you do a training on Vim 3, and you want to assess, did people understand the concepts? We have a way to do that. Yeah.
There are some legal problems going from one version to the other of the BIM.
Okay.
Suppose that you are ordering for someone calibration.
Yeah.
To BIM 2 definition. And he gives you calibration according to BIM 3.
Okay.
Are you going to quote with him or not?
Wow, that's interesting.
Because the definitions are definitely different.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't, you're right. I didn't think about that. It's quite interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think the situation in the field is a horrible mess because I've seen manuals where they're all confused, validity, measurement,
Yes.
calibration. Why is this not trickling down into standards?
Well, what Jackie is saying is an understatement. In the US, when you say repeatability, the chances are that people will look at it in the same way. When you say repeatability in Israel, and if you even dare to translate that, you're going to have 50 different opinions on what it means. Okay, so here we have the Technion, who has an influence on terminology. We have Ben Gurion University, which has influence. You can even maybe split the country by areas of influence. I mean, a small country, you can travel in 2 hours. You know, it's not like you need a lot of time, but the number of ideas so terminology, I think, is not handled properly, and I think that it's due, in a sense, to the education system. You know, if people feel that they have the right to identify, to determine terms, to define terms independently, you know, my idea is that this is what it should be called. You are creating a mess. I was in a meeting at the Standard Institute. When was this? You were not there a month ago. You were there. They are discussing definitions of quality. I mean, we're talking about 2014. It looks like what we used to have in the 80s, you know.
But it was an American company, Ron, to be fair. The horrible mess.
Yes, okay. It happens everywhere. Okay. 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 Bye-bye.